Welcome to the desert of the real.
Have you thrown in the towel, brother?
I've never thrown in the towel.
There you go.
You know, that's to me, you know, honestly, people who say that they throwing in the towel wasn't serious in the first place. I remember an elder telling me a long time in undergrad that, you know what, in this thing, you just got to love black people, you know, for better or for worse. There's two things that you got to understand in this fight. One, that you got to understand that you may never see the fruits of your labor. And two, you got to persevere when nobody tells you thank you. And it seems like, you know, people bow out early because they want some acknowledgement for what they do, not understanding that your diploma is the grade. You know, you came here for a purpose to solve a problem. If you don't work, you know, until you die to solve that problem, you have not fulfilled your purpose here on life. You know, there's always going to be issues, whether it's in the black community, Mexican community. That's just the nature, the story of the Setian, you know, way. If we want to go use the Egyptian analogy, you know, that's just the nature of the universe. It's called entropy. It's going to always be there. So anybody talking about bowing out and do what? You know, where you going to go to? There's not going to be any problems. You know, these are things that, you know, this gets me as well. We got to understand that we're really only 40 years out of slavery. And I say 40 years instead of 100, you know, in 40 years. Mm-hmm. Primarily because we have records going into the mid-70s of peonage. That means slavery going into the 1970s. We didn't get our right to vote and things, and we still had issues going into the mid-70s. So it took 500 years to make the Negro, and we expect all the problems and everybody to be psychologically healthy in 40 years. And that's an impossibility. So if we understand the nature and the scope of the problem, then it should humble you to enough to the point where you understand that it's going to be a long time and probably won't be solved until probably 2 or 3 generations after you die. But you got to understand that you got to work in the confines of setting the platform together and trying to raise up, even if it's just a few people, to build on the knowledge and the institutes that you set up to continue the fight when you're gone. You know, and I think this is kind of the mindset that we need to have, whether people buck dancing or not. You know, we're only 40 years out of slavery. So, you know.
And you know what, though? I'm glad that you said that because I know, because most of the people that say that, I know, have not given up. They haven't. They can't. You can't. You can't. You know, I mean, they're frustrated, and that's why, and what's one of the reasons why I wanted to create this show, because my cousin, actually, I'm going to bring him in on after I speak to you. But he was the one that was the inspiration for this because there's a level of frustration out there that I wanted to address. And a lot of the brothers, I don't know if you have ever, you've heard of the Slave Theater that was in Brooklyn like a few years back? Automatics and United African Movement. They used to have a forum there. And every Wednesday night, they would have different speakers. That's why, you know, I heard about a lot of speakers because in Brooklyn, that was like the epicenter of consciousness. And it was a lot of politics behind it, and it ended up getting, you know, they were challenging them on their right to be there and blah, 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 and a lot of city politics. And so eventually it got disbanded, and the meetings weren't there on Wednesday. And it sort of like just created this void in Brooklyn especially, but in New York, because that was the place. Like if you knew every Wednesday so-and-so was going to be at the Slave. And I think that what has happened is that energy has been transferred online now. And you get these pockets where people are coming for consciousness or coming for fuel so that they can, store up that energy so they can go on for another day. And it never really went anywhere. It just changed the format. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the people that's really in it can't give up. No matter how, even if they, because you know how it is. Sometimes you just like, oh, I'm tired of this, da-da-da-da. It's just talk. Because at the end of the day, you can't stop being who you are.
Exactly. It's like, what are you going to use all that knowledge that you gained through all those books you were reading? What are you going to do with it now that you've been bowed out? I kind of think of it like the Matrix. Once you serve no purpose, you get deleted.
Right.
Like the programs in the Matrix, like Sati and all of them. And, I plan to be a program that, has upgrades and continues for years and years to come, because I just love my people that much, and I think the fight is worth it, no matter how frustrated I get. The key is really just keeping a network of individuals who can build you up and share positive energy when you're going in the trenches. So in this aspect, I kind of like the, even though I have my issues with the modern day church, the concept of before you start the work week and getting that revival going is something that even the conscious, quote unquote conscious community needs. You just need to be in a place sometimes to get that fuel to keep on going, and that's what shows like this, and other platforms across the United States does, for us. So as long as we keep in it, we keep growing, we keep humbling ourselves, we keep compassion in our hearts for the people. I think some people just get caught up in, being in the fight itself without understanding what it is that they're fighting for. Right. And when we understand the humanity of the people we're fighting for, that should keep you humble, to understand the frustrations. Because if you understand what it means to be human in the fullest sense, you'll understand exactly what it is that they're going through, because you went through it at some point. Everybody goes through different levels of consciousness during different stages of their lives. So some people awaken in their early 20s. Some don't awaken until they're 50, and it is just, that's just their plan. That's just their purpose. So, we just need to ensure that we have the institutions to bring them to once we have awakened or unplugged the mind, so to speak. If you don't have the institutions to build them and to be able to help them realize the grander goals, then we're just playing. We're just throwing information at them. Black people build pyramids. Okay, and after that, and what?
Right. Exactly. And it's the question that I would ask for everybody who says that they've given up is, have you abandoned the concept of an educational system for our children? If you say no, you haven't, then you haven't given up. Got news for you. You're still there.